I'm Scott Hansen with Maverick Brands, and I'm here with Dr. Glover from WiGL. And we're really excited to have him here today to talk a little bit about equity-based crowdfunding and how WiGL has been so successful with building a community that's really supporting a technology that's bleeding edge in the United States and really globally. And so I'd like to introduce Dr. Glover. Thank you for having being here today and having us.
Thank you, Scott. Thanks for taking the time out of your outrageously crazy schedule to do this. So super duper excited to be here, talk about crowdfunding, talk about Wiggle, talk about what's next, talk about the future. So thanks.
Yeah, no, appreciate you. And maybe you can tell us a little bit about some of your journey thus far with crowdfunding and how you've been able to introduce your technology to a wider audience and build that community that has been so supportive of Wiggle as you guys continue to grow in your journey.
Cool. So for folks who've heard this story before, cover your ears. They're probably tired of me telling this story. Maybe I remember a little bit more each time, or forget a little bit more each time. I don't know which case it is, but Wiggle was started February 26, 2020, and that date is very important because you have to remember that the wheels came off of the world shortly after, right? COVID hit, travel was restricted, you couldn't talk to anybody. Well, if you can imagine, I had gone 2017, 2018, 2019, working on this technology, developing this technology, talking about what this technology could do for DoD. And finally, everybody was whispering in my ear going, hey, you got to take this commercial, right? You got to take this technology. And I'll talk about the technology a bit, but you got to take this technology to the masses. Okay, got it. Let's start a company and take it to the masses. And right then, the world stops. So we were right at the beginning of talking about how do you raise capital? What does that mean? I'm retired Air Force guy, right? I didn't have a background in raising capital and that stuff. And so
Thank you for your service, by the way.
thank you, sir. So so I had a meeting right after COVID started with this billionaire. He goes, come to my house, right? Again, whenever I tell this story, I forget, I need to look it up. I forget which day of the week it was, but for sake of argument, let's say it's Tuesday. He says, I'm talking to him at like 6 o'clock in the evening. He says, I really want to meet you. Let's sit down and chat it up. I'm in Virginia. He's in Connecticut. He's like, let's meet tomorrow. Tomorrow? Yeah, tomorrow morning. Come to my house. I'm gonna give you my address, give you my gate code, come to my house. Okay, well, you can't pass that kind of opportunity, right? So I drive through the night, go to this guy's house. I get there. Remember, it's cold. So I'm outside. It's cold. The wind's blowing. I got stacks of paper and laptop. There's crap blowing all over. I'm trying to grab. He's got a big old husky dog that's playing in the mud, and he's out on the water, and it's freezing. The dog's all over my suit's a mess, and I'm like, this is a train wreck, right? And so I go through all this, and at the end he goes, "Oh, I just wanted to meet you." And he says, I just wanted to meet the founder and kind of, see if we kind of vibe, and we do. And I went back home and I told my wife, I'm not built for this. I'm a military guy. I didn't know how to capital raise stuff. If that's it, I can't do that. So we start looking for alternatives. And so we landed on this thing called the Jobs Act. The Jobs Act led us to this capability to raise capital on these approved, SEC approved portals. And so that was brilliant for Wiggle because what Wiggle was after was more than just raising money. We were about brand awareness, what I call name dominance, getting our name out there. We've got a technology, we've got a groundbreaking, revolutionary, next generation thing, and we think the world needs to know about it. And because of this crowdfund to the average Bubba, it was perfect. So that's kind of the journey that led us from, hey, let's go meet at the private club or at the billionaire's boathouse to, nope, let's take this online and tell everybody about it. And we've been super duper excited about it so far. So
Yeah. So how much initially did you raise in your first campaign?
so so that's another goofy thing, right? So Wiggle, I can't tell a story without telling the background to the story because otherwise, because there's so much will get lost in translation. So when WiGL started our capital raise, again, it's 2020, right? Everybody's at home, everybody's sitting in front of their computer, nobody's talking. You didn't even let your kids shake your hand, right? And so everybody was doing everything online. So we started in I think it was the day before or day after Christmas, somewhere in there is when our launch happened in 2020. Within 13 days, we had already maxed out on the $1,070,000 cap. So
Wow.
so we were on a platform called Start Engine at the time, and so Start Engine has a bunch of companies. One of them is called Start Engine Promotes, and the way that they function is you do your first 30 days. They kind of assess you and see where you are, and then after 30 days, they jump in and say, "Well, this is what we can do to help your campaign." So by the time Start Engine Promote contacted us, we were like, "We're already maxed out." So we hit the 1 million very quickly. Then President Trump raised the cap to 5 million. And so we jumped all hoops of fire, did all the last minute stuff that you had to do to go from 1,070,000 to 5 million. And we were the first reg CF on Start Engine to hit the 5 million. So that was so when you say our first raise, I have to kind of explain it that way because our first raise was really kind of two raises in one.
Yep.
But that was our first raise.
That's amazing. Equity-based crowdfunding, really provides a unique opportunity for those everyday investors, like you mentioned. And it's an opportunity for them to get on the ground floor of promising startups. WiGL has incredible technology that is likely going to change the world in a lot of different ways for everybody that uses their technology. Um, there's been until now there's only been really venture capital and private equity that entrepreneurs like yourself are able to use to bring their dream to fruition and then scale and keep funding the growth. So the Title III law that allowed for crowdfunding really has allowed for everyday investors to get on the ground floor of companies like WiGL, which I think the excitement around your technology and the community that now has supported the growth of WiGL, that wouldn't have been possible until this crowdfunding Reg CF came to fruition. There's now several platforms that host these crowdfunding campaigns, and I know that recently WiGL has moved to a new platform to allow for additional investment as you guys seek out your next stage of growth. Can you tell us a little bit about the new opportunity to get on board with WiGL on the new platform? I think it's called Pick Me, and just a little bit more about the future of where the technology is headed.
Oh, perfect. Thanks, guys. So for us, again, right, we were drowning in this sea of COVID. We need to raise capital to transition from, hey, this is a military kind of thing, into how do we take this to the civilian masses? And so Start Engine at that time was the right platform for us because they were kind of, I've got an idea on the back of a napkin, right? We were a little bit further along in that we did have a prototype. We did have some demonstrations that we had already provided to the Department of Defense. And so they were a great place for us. We then grew into, okay, now we actually have minimally viable products. We've got revenue coming in. Uh, some of the criticisms that I was taking was so WiGL is wireless electrical grids of local area networks, right? So this is everybody who will see this video or hear about this video knows I need to recharge my stuff, right? I got bunches of stuffs and I need to recharge it. And so WiGL has the utility patents, not the design ornament, the big boy patents on how do you do that across networks? How do I build a hotspot, walk into that hotspot, sign on like Wi-Fi, and recharge my stuff? So once we had moved away from that kind of back of the napkin and to know we're actually doing this, we're demonstrating some of this capability, and we're sharing the messages with folks. I was getting pretty beat up with folks going, "Why are you spamming me? Why are you inboxing me?" And so I'm like, what are you talking about? This is the best thing since like bread." Well, I went back and read what those folks were saying, and what they were telling me was they were in Canada, they were in Australia, they were in Japan, right? They were getting this, hey, this thing about Wiggle, but they couldn't invest. I didn't know, right? They went to the portal and the portal said, "Oh, sorry, not for you." And so our second platform that we went to was a company called Front Funder. So we went to Front Funder because we said, okay, we're beyond the back of the napkin. We've got a minimally viable product, and we need to be able to share our capabilities with folks not just in the United States. So Front Funder was our second. Uh,
Okay.
Once we got to, we're ready to get into this space of commercialization, right? We're about to start mass manufacturing. That's when we went to Pick Me. So Pick Me was the right place because of what the different portals kind of niches are and where they specialize. The other thing that was interesting for us is when we went to Start Engine wasn't a everyday name, right? Kevin O'Leary wasn't, right? He was just starting to be part of that. And so we see Pick Me is kind of in that same space. They're not a everyday name, right? Spelled kind of different, but we think that that it's the right home for Wiggle right now.
That's cool. And Kevin O'Leary, he's Mr. Wonderful from Start Engine. So I mean, from Shark
Okay.
Tank, and then he went over to Start Engine and supports some of he's part of that. I guess it's part of his portfolio companies. So what's next for Wiggle? What can the community at large and what can we learn about the technologies as they grow and what do we expect to see?
So we've done something very interesting, and this was another. It was the right timing to transition from a Start Engine to a Pick Me. So so again, you'll hear me talk a lot about DoD. Right? I got my fatigue kind of
Yeah.
head on. I come from a military background, and so when we weren't talking to our DoD bubbles about what Wiggle is, right? We've got this wireless electrical grids and local area networks. Okay, tell me more. Okay, so you take these transmitters and you plug this transmitter into the AC outlet, and then you're able to move inside of this hotspot, this network, and wirelessly recharge your stuff over the air, right? So all my special ops bubbles are like this, right? So this tells me they're turned off. So I'm like, hey, what gives? And they go, dude, you keep talking about plug your transmitter in. I'm on the side of a mountain, middle of nowhere. I got nowhere to plug your transmitter in. So we went back, partnered with Al Anderson, super duper brilliant guy. Him and his brother had come up with this capability to generate electricity from salt water. Solved it, right? So now we can create power and we can send that power wirelessly. So over the years, that capability to create our own power has grown a life of its own. And so we've spun off and we now have Wiggle Energy Inc. and Wiggle Inc. So Wiggle Inc. specializes in the wireless power. Wiggle Energy Inc. specializes in this cool stuff, right? So this is a water
Wow.
bottle, water into this guy, and it recharges your stuff. So that's kind of where we are with Wiggle and Wiggle Inc. and where the companies with an S are going. We've got government contracts that we're on, government contracts that we're chasing, and commercialization for those. Hold me to it, right? I tell people all the time, if I say stuff, hold me accountable, hold me to it. This year, 2024, you're going to have commercial products from those two companies. So that's what's on the
Wow.
horizon for us for Wiggle and Wiggle Inc. So
That's
we're
a
going.
big deal. So essentially when you were with the DoD, you worked in this space in power, and you took some of your knowledge and applied it to the commercial side. Tell us about some of your patents, because that's really compelling. I mean, Wiggle sounds like it has some patents that theoretically, I guess, could be used commercially if you were to license them even to other companies.
You're spot on. So my background with DoD, I was an acquisitions officer, and so I started to cut my teeth in the acquisition space working with satellites. And so you were talking about getting radio signal from one part of the planet to the other part of the planet, or almost all the way around the planet, hopping across multiple satellites, right? And so how do you do that? How do you bend a signal? How do you hide a signal within the signal? All of that kind of Gucci stuff. Well, right, as everybody knows, as time went on, everybody became more mobile. We started sticking stuff on the airmen and soldiers, the Guardian, the Marines, and sailors and
Yeah.
coasties. So you got all of these sensors and all of this Gucci stuff that you're doing. Problem kept being everybody kept coming to me. So the thing I remember the most is there's a data transfer device. So this thing, you use this little device and you load crypto key into it, right? And so you take this thing and we hand walk it over to the device, and we insert it in there and we load the crypto key. Well, this thing is so smart that it goes, uh-oh, I think the Chinese or the Russians or the Not-A-Hero-stans have stolen me. And so if the battery dies, it does what's called zero. It erases the key, right? So the bad guys can't get it. So bad guys can't take it, put it on an airplane, take it to another country. By the time it gets there, the battery's dead and you'll never get the key. Well, the problem is we kept we kept dying on us, right? So here we go. I'm an acquisitions guy. I paid, right? I'll slap my own hand. I'm one of them guys that paid millions of dollars for a hammer, right? So I've paid for this space at this range to test this new Gucci thing, and I get a call, sir, the battery died. Okay, what does that mean? Well, like clockwork, the battery died at 4 o'clock. The place we need to load the crypto key closes at 4:30, and it's 500 miles away. What? So now I got to pay what we call the standing army fee to keep all these people here, reschedule the test, pay. I got to do all this, and that was so many. I can't even tell you how many times it happened. So I said I got to solve this battery problem, right? That's what I have to fix. And so I used to bug different folks there. We had MIT on contract, MIT Lincoln Labs. They would go, get away, don't kid, right? Dude, worry about this problem. No, dude, I got to solve this battery problem. So after I retired, because of my background in clearances, I was asked to come back as a contractor. And guess what? Same cast of characters, same problems, but now I'm a contractor, right? So now I can call these guys on the weekends and at home and bug them to death. And so fortunately, I got a hold of the right guy, who's the lead radio frequency guy over at MIT, Sharif Chabain. We worked on the first patent on building a network. We realized, based on what we're doing for DoD with satellite stuff and other radio frequency stuff, and high aircraft moving at Mach 3, making a high pitched turn and needing to get an on time signal to them. How do we do that? We said, hey, we have networks to do that. So that's what we focused on. So our first patent was on building an ad hoc network. And then we started building moats around that patent. So that grew into, well, wait a minute, at some point, this is going to be a commercial product, right? Because folks are bugging me. So what if you monetize over the air wireless power, right? Somebody's got to hold the patent for that if somebody gets paid for it. What happens if somebody puts it into crypto, right? What happens if somebody builds a blockchain for it? Well, we hold the patents for that. What happens if you put the transmitters into other stuff, right? You heard me talk about plugging it in the wall. What happens if you make a light bulb into a transmitter? Well, we've got the patents for that. Well, what
Wow.
happens if you make a television or a wall or furniture a transmitter? Well, we've got the patents for that. What if you put it into the roads? Well, we hold the patents for that. So late last week, I said earlier this week, late last week, I received 2 more notices of patents. So I think we're now up to 12 patents that we currently have. And again, I say utility patents because WiGL, I was advised early on, get away from the ornamentation patents. That's the one where you got one and it's got a handle. Guy makes one and he doesn't make a handle, right? Gets around your patent. Get into the utility. How does it work? Who cares what it looks like? How does it work? And so we have solely utility patents.
That's amazing. So how can people get involved and join the WiGL team and be a part of the journey? You mentioned that you have a new campaign to sustain this next level of growth for WiGL and eventually WiGL Energy. You have incredible patents that are going to be utilized commercially. How can people invest?
Yeah, so we the interesting thing about doing this crowdfunding stuff, and you know probably far better than I do, both having done it yourself with companies and mentoring folks like us through, hey, do this, do that. I tell everybody it has been the most challenging yet the most rewarding part of this journey, because there is not a thing about the company that you will not know when you go through these portals, right? These portals are there to designed to protect the unaccredited investor. And
Yep.
so they ask you everything, and they don't trust anybody, right? So I can tell them we did such on such a date. Great, give me third party validation that happened, and we'll accept it. If not, it never happened. And so going through that process has been monumental for WiGL, because it allows folks to get in before we're at the table with those VCs and those other folks that you were talking about. And so if you're looking for, hey, the markets are crazy, the crypto markets are gone, the bond markets, how the interest rate, and you're looking for something that's going to give you maybe some long-term leverage, some long-term capability. Again, I'm biased. I would say look at WiGL, right? Because we're early, but I would advise look at a bunch of these early startups that are looking for folks to provide capital to keep them afloat, or to get to the next milestone, or to get to exit. I think it's a brilliant way. I applaud the Jobs Act and all that has gone into that to make that open to the to my mom and uncles and Uncle Bubba. It has been a tremendous thing, I think, for us as a country, and globally for folks around the world who are looking to invest. You can find us on PickMe. If you go to PickMe Crowdfunding, just put in WiGL, WiGL, or PickMe Crowdfunding. .com/WIGL will bring you right to us, and you can see what we have going on. But again, I can't put stomp this enough. Don't just stop at WiGL, right? Go and look, because there may be an island brand there, right? Which maybe there's some
Yeah.
beverage that you're interested in, or there's earbuds on there, or flying cars, and there's all kind of novel things that you may not be aware of that you can kind of do your due diligence and go, hey, maybe I want to throw a couple of bucks at that thing and see what happens.
Yeah, and I know you were recently highlighted in American Crowdfunder, and that's gone out to a lot of accredited investors. Um, it's really an incredible story, and the journey I feel like is just beginning for those people that did invest. I think that they're going to have a great opportunity down the road as this massive marketplace opens up, and WiGL leverages all the patents and work that you guys have put together in this technology. Thank you again for spending the time today, and telling us more about WiGL and how everybody can get involved. It's a great story, and I think it's really just the beginning for WiGL and the community that supports your technology and where it's headed. So thank you very much for spending the time to tell us more about it. And if you're out there and you haven't checked it out, you need to go to pickme.com and pickmecrowdfunding.com and search WiGL, and let's WiGL, as Dr. Glover would say. Thank you very much, man.
Thank you, sir. This was amazing. So thank you.
Yeah, cheers.